We are what? We are who? We are what? Vibrant. We are who? 50 plus. Hi, welcome to Gray Lives on the Rise. I am your host, Professor Jamila Franklin, and we are coming to you from Oyende Enterprises, being sponsored by Jamila Sense, which is our product line of aromatherapy products that helps heal the mind, body, and soul. And we are bringing to you Alamaj's rebirthing program, as well as Jamila Sense, and a host of wonderful programs that will help heal your body, heal your soul, and heal your mind. 50 plus people, we are here to stay. Gray Lives on the Rise. We are what? We are who? We are vibrant, and we are here to stay. Join us for our wonderful episodes. Thank you, and continue to look for our episodes weekly, being brought to you again from Oyende Enterprises and Jamila Sense. See you soon. Greetings, everyone. How are you? It's Professor Jamila Franklin. I'm here today with the magnificent Dr. Reginald Howard, and I am the founder of Gray Lives on the Rise. You can see Dr. Howard has on his shirt. He's handsomely displaying his shirt. I have on my shirt, Gray Lives on the Rise. So I'm the founder of Gray Lives on the Rise, and if you are new to our channel, I'm just going to give you some brief information. Gray Lives on the Rise came about when I was walking, because I'm really into fitness. I was walking about 1.5 years ago, and then this download came from Spirit, and it basically said, there is nothing that really focuses on your demographic except AARP and Medicare. And I said, that is so true. And most of my friends, like myself, were not into having a cabinet full of pills and medicines, like for Medicare. Not everyone on Medicare does that, but we're not into that. And also, my friends are very active, and they are not, retired permanently. They may be retired from their traditional jobs, but they're doing a lot of active things. So Gray Lives on the Rise is for the 50 plus generation who is active. And so with the download, all the information came to me. The information was like, look, you're going to have to relinquish some things because people are seeing themselves as old and elderly and just basically over the hill, and they are not. I said, yeah. So we don't call ourselves seniors or elderly. We say we are mature, seasoned, vibrant, and alive. Okay. So I said, okay, now that I have that, we need to look at branding. And so I said, because people can think about a term, but they need to see it. So we came up with our Gray Lives on the Rise online store. And like I said, I showed you mine, and Dr. Howard is showing you his. So I said, okay. So people can purchase from our store, and a lot of people have done so. And we are international. We are not local. We're not national. Only we are global. So we have had people from Serbia, Eastern Europe, from Canada, from Australia. We have people who are in Belize, in Europe, in England, all over the world who are part of our community. So then the podcast was the last thing. And Gray Lives on the Rise. The slogan is trademarked. Okay. I'm a businesswoman. I think like that. So it's trademarked. So then it's okay. The podcast should what? Deal with all the issues that we deal with as people who are 50 plus. And also when we become 50 plus, a lot of organizations or businesses won't hire you. They only hire people who are younger than 50. So I said, what we need to do as a community is mobilize and buy from each other, support each other, and have podcasts that deal with our issues. So therefore, Gray Lives on the Rise became a reality. Okay? So And as the founder of it, I also have several businesses. And one of my businesses is Jamila Sense, which is underwriting this wonderful program. And I have sold out of all of my products, but it's an aromatherapy company that is all natural, no additives, no chemicals, all plant-based, and they deal with any kind of concerns you may have. Peace Be Still is my signature brand, and it's amazing. You just put a couple of drops in your hands, you rub your hands together, you breathe in, and you feel like you're in seventh heaven. And it's amazing. You put the rest on your arms, and you just carefree. It's good for everyone, regardless of the age. The only person who can't use it is a pregnant woman. And for this demographic, I don't think that that would be an issue, ladies. We're past that. So, and I'm a certified Reiki master. I'm a college professor of psychology. I have I'm a certified metaphysician, a certified aromatherapist, and I am an award-winning published author. I do a lot of things. There's about 10 different things that I do. I have another podcast that I'm going to resume that talks all about that. But today we're talking about great lives on the rise. And so I wanted to introduce you again to Dr. Reginald Walter Howard, who is the founder and spiritual director of Truth and Transformation Ministries, Inc. Dr. Howard is a graduate of both Georgia State University and Clark Atlanta University. He has earned degrees in the following areas: a Bachelor of Business Administration and Management, a Master of Arts in African American Studies with a specialization in organizational development, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Transpersonal Psychology. He completed his ministerial training under the leadership and mentorship of Reverend Ricardo A. Rivers, the founder of RARE, R-A-R-E, Ministries. Dr. Howard is the author of 3 books, and he's working on his 4th. First, Manifest Your Magnificence, a historical and spiritual guide for success. The second one, The Transformative Truth, 7 Steps for Spiritual Transformation. And the third one, Transformative Thoughts, the Soul's Sacred Shift. All of Dr. Howard's publications provide the reader with essential tools that shift negative mental patterns into permanent positive behavioral patterns that facilitate spiritual growth, personal development, and overall wellness. Dr. Howard teaches the psychology of spiritual transformation. Thus, he has successfully merged the worlds of both psychology and spirituality into all aspects of his ministry, written publications, and counseling practices. According to Dr. Howard, mental health and spirituality are not mutually exclusive. Rather, he advocates mental health is the key to developing a positive self-image and the most effective route toward reaching one's spiritual potential. Welcome, Dr. Howard.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I appreciate you having me with your wonderful listening audience, or watching audience, I should say.
Yes, they're both. Because we're going to upload to Spotify's audio only as well as the video. I am so pleased to have you here. I've heard a lot of wonderful things about you from a colleague, Dr. Adrian Sabir. She had talked about you so favorably in the past. And so I've reached out to you to ask you to join our community, and you so graciously accepted. Thank you. And I had asked if you could also be a guest speaker, and you chose to do so. And you sent me a clip of one of your speaking engagements and at Victory Church. I think that's the name of the church. And it was very good. Yeah, it was very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate your sending that to me. We share several interests because you're spiritual and metaphysical, so am I. You know, I teach psychology, and I have an eclectic counseling practice, a
Mhm.
metaphysical practice. So I was like, wow, this is going to be a very, very interesting and very engaged conversation. And I never ask people to give me any information, a lot of information beforehand, because I want it to be fresh. And
Okay.
so, yeah, thank you. So let me just go back. Where are you originally from? Because I see you've gone to
Uh,
two Georgia schools.
yes, I was originally born in Augusta, Georgia, but
Oh,
my
okay.
parents moved to the metropolitan Atlanta area 6 months after I was born. So Atlanta is really home, but a lot of family in Augusta and a lot of family in Columbia, South Carolina.
Oh,
So
oh.
yes, so
So
yeah, so I'm raised here in Georgia. I am a Georgian, just
yeah,
transplanted to Atlanta very quickly.
yeah. So you're a native Southerners, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
What encouraged you to go into the field of psychology as well as into the ministerial field? What was the trajectory? How did you transition into that? And just growing up, okay, this is a loaded question. Growing up, what did you see the needs of the community, the African American community, to be, which may have led to psychology and ministerial profession?
Well, growing up, I used to hear my father do a lot of talking about racism. And at that time,
Mm,
when I was going to Georgia State, my field of study, of course, was business. And so I was moving along that trajectory and really thinking about, by the time I got to graduate school, really thinking about becoming a professor. But
mm,
then when I began to study spirituality, because I really didn't grow up in the church so
mm,
much, but when I began to understand spirituality, that was the impetus for me going into the ministry. And then as I understood spirituality more, and the ancient understanding of psychology is the understanding of the soul. So
mm,
I began to realize that there was a linkage between both spirituality and psychology. And
yeah.
looking at our collective experience as Black people, especially in the United States, having gone through the legacy of slavery, the history of slavery, many of us are still living with the vestiges of post-traumatic slavery disorder. In fact, I used to know the doctor who wrote post-traumatic slavery disorder. She's now transitioned, Dr. Patricia Newton. And
Oh,
so
wow.
that,
She transitioned. I didn't know that. Yeah.
yeah, so that really was the impetus for me to go into the ministry, just understanding the mind, understanding our collective experiences as Black people. And, when you understand the history of a people, you also understand the psychology of the
Mm-hmm.
people.
Mm-hmm. It's,
And I began to understand more and more that you could put the pieces of the puzzle back together through psychology. So if there appears to be broken pieces in your life, you can put it all back together through the field of psychology, just through understanding and knowing who you are. And oftentimes I will talk to clients and they'll say, well, when they're referring to their romantic partner or their friends, or to their family members, they say, nobody gets me. And the
mm-hmm.
real question that I pose back to them is, do you understand you? What really motivates you? Instead of desiring somebody else to love you, begin to love yourself and begin to understand and know that as you love yourself, you will draw loving people and loving conditions to you, the right conditions, the right person, the right family members,
Yeah.
because we are really responsible for creating our life. Now, we weren't really taught that. No one really
Right.
taught us that we have to step into a space of self-mastery. And a lot of people, who may be on the broadcast, they say they follow the teachings of Jesus. And many times people say that he was the master teacher. So if he was the
Mm-hmm.
master teacher, then that means that we need to be mastering the lessons
Mm.
of life. So that's a long answer to your question, but
Oh, it was
yeah.
divine and on point. I agree. We should be the masters of our lives and our reality. And it's really challenging for people of uh, of all races to
Mhm,
understand that we are the co-creators with the universe. It's very challenging because we give our power
mhm,
away to external forces, particularly people who are melanated and who are African American and African throughout the diaspora. Because
mhm,
what happens due to racism, a lot of things seem out of our control.
mhm,
So people will say, "Oh, that's woo-woo what you're talking about. I'm the master of uh, my reality." I was working at this job for so many years, and then they fired me because of racism. I was denied housing,
mhm,
even though I could could have moved into the neighborhood if I were white without a problem, but they didn't
mhm,
allow me to. So, or the banks gave me a higher interest rate because I was of African ancestry. And so people feel like those external factors are beyond
mhm.
their control.
Right.
Whereas what you're saying, and I believe I go beyond the law of attraction because I teach metaphysics. So
Mhm,
what you're saying is so powerful because you're putting the power back into people's hands to let them know that, yeah, these external forces are out there, but if you keep giving those external forces energy, they're just going to magnify. And not that
right.
they're not out there, but you have more control with the creator, of course. Aligning
Mhm,
yourself with thoughts of worthiness, aligning yourself with thoughts of divinity, and knowing
mhm.
that despite what the external forces may try to project or put on you, you can override it because our ancestors did. Our
Right.
ancestors
Mm,
did that. So
mhm.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
One of the affirmations that we use at Truth and Transformation Ministries is that I respect and I love myself
Mm,
as a manifestation of God.
mm-hmm.
And as we begin to step into the power of that, we'll see the presence of God manifest, in, through, and as us, because we also have been oriented to the idea that God is outside of ourselves
Yes.
and that we're unworthy and unlovable, that we're wretched, that we're sinful. See,
Yes.
all of that stuff
Yes.
that we have been taught has resulted in low self-esteem and as I said earlier, feelings of unworthiness. And the two, your spirituality, to say I'm a man or a woman of God, and then to look upon yourself as lowly and unworthy, the two don't match. It's just
Yes.
like the scripture tells us, a house divided against itself cannot stand. So when I divide my consciousness, when I divide my awareness into thoughts of lack or limitation,
Mm-hmm.
you see, then I begin to experience all of that in my, in my worldly affairs. So we have to begin to understand and begin to put the pieces of the puzzle back together so that we understand and know that we are perfect, whole,
Mm-hmm.
and complete in our spirit. It's our human selves that have
Mm-hmm.
to get in alignment with the spirit. And the only way to
That's
get in alignment with the spirit is to submit to the spirit, which means to cooperate. Just like I was sharing with you earlier before we got on the broadcast, that I'm now in the midst of writing another book, and I have my completion date set, but the Spirit has given me another alternate date, and so I have to move with the flow of that. If I didn't move with it, I'd cause myself a whole lot of harm and
Mhm.
danger and undue stress. And I heard another minister say that you're not punished for your sin, you're punished by your sin. Meaning
Mhm.
that we put ourselves or we put our human selves in these situations where we cause ourselves a whole lot of stress and undue anguish and frustration. So we have to
Very true.
learn to practice our spirituality.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what you're doing, which is so apropos, is that you're giving a new vision of spirituality versus religion, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people are religious and not spiritual. And I tell people those are two different things. They are not
Correct.
synonymous.
Mm-hmm.
So people can be very religious. Give you an example and say, they can be in church all day on Sunday, praising God and whatever belief system, Islam,
Mm-hmm.
Yoruba, Christianity, Judaism, whatever the belief system is, and then come out and look in the parking lot, and if they see someone blocking their car, raise a fit. I'm like, you end up a whole hour
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah.
praising God, right?
Right.
And
Right.
or someone, come out of church, I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage. You were in
Mm-hmm.
there giving God praise a few minutes ago. So that's religion.
Mm-hmm.
Spirituality is what you were saying so eloquently, deals with no duality. And what we've been taught, particularly in the African American community, in all communities, but I know in our
Mm-hmm.
community, that God is on the outside, God is not within you. So you're praying and beseeching and begging
Mm-hmm.
this being. When in actuality, that is as far from the truth as possible. You don't have to beseech. It's
Right.
already there. And what you're
Right.
saying with your books, you're transforming the way that people see the world, which is wonderful. And everyone get his books. He's going to give you the information towards the end. Buy his books, okay, to change your minds. Okay. So, but because of that duality, that's caused a problem, because we're praying to this God up in the sky and not seeing ourselves as a microcosm of that macrocosm. We are individual expressions of the Creator. So we have not been taught that. We've been taught that you have to beg, beseech, cry to this God, and because you're
Mhm.
this unworthy being. And what you're saying is so appropriate, particularly now, as people, by the time this is aired, we'll be in the third month of the new year.
Mhm.
But with this recent election, people are feeling hopeless,
Mhm.
helpless, afraid,
Yes.
and overwhelmed.
Mhm.
So you're saying, regardless of who is in office,
Right.
nothing has changed. God is still the same today, yesterday, and tomorrow. And if
Mhm.
you meditate and pray, you will find that to be true. So, how I know things. You probably have some of your parishioners and clients come to you now who are very fearful because of the results of the election. But people who didn't vote for this person coming into office, if they did, they're happy. I
All
think.
right.
I think people having second thoughts. I really do. They're having second thoughts. I voted. Oh my God.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
what are you experiencing as a minister with people
Mhm.
in terms of the results of this election?
Well, what I attempt to do is to take them back to some of our um, ancient or African American ancestors who lived through some very tough times, whether it be Mary Cloud Bethune, whether it's Malcolm X, whether it's Martin Luther King, and help them to understand Harriet Tubman. Harriet
Mhm.
Tubman is an excellent example of
Yes.
somebody
Mhm.
who really showed us. In fact, I say that she's an archetype of empowerment because
Yeah.
she demonstrated to us that no matter what circumstances, what conditions you are under, you always are empowered, which means you have a choice. See,
Yes.
and if she could make a choice on a plantation to leave, to liberate herself under some of the most harshest forms of abuse and
Mhm.
degradation, then certainly I can, you can, all of the listening audience can
Mhm.
make the choice to continue to stay empowered. And, you know, she renounced slavery. She said, it doesn't matter, even if I have to die to do it, I'm going to be free. Now, see,
Yes.
see, we have to work with that, because when we look at Harriet Tubman, we just say, oh, well, she's just a woman who um, liberated herself from the plantation, and then she came back and took some slaves, you know, off the plantation with her. But
Mm.
really, on a metaphysical level, on a spiritual level, she taught us that we all have to free ourselves from the plantation of our mind.
Very true. I
You see,
love,
she had to do it herself first. Before
yes.
she even left that plantation, she had to decide, I'm leaving the plantation of my mind, because the biggest plantation that many of us are on is the one that's in our mind. The plantation says you can't, they can't, he, she, or it can't. So we have um we have confined ourselves to a place of mental and emotional enslavement in many instances that also bankrupts us. So we've got to get back to this place of knowing that we are empowered. And one of the scriptures that I am reminded of from the Bible, it says, um, what does it
Mm.
say? It says, I give unto you power. So that means I don't have to look outside of myself for the power. The power is within me, but I have to what? I have to cultivate it through exactly what you're saying, through prayer, which is definite spiritual thinking, through
Mm.
meditation, through listening to God, through eating healthy, as you said earlier, and exercising. Many of us are bound to some of these diseases that we have because that we have accepted that because it's in our genetic line, that we are enslaved to it. See,
Yeah.
God does not make anybody that's going to be bound and enslaved. So we have to shift our minds to a new and more positive thinking pattern. And I just want to share my definition of spiritual transformation.
Mhm.
Spiritual transformation is a permanent shift in both our outlook and our lifestyle, such that we are completely altered. And
Mm.
many of us have not understood and known that the altar is really our mind. So
Mm.
what are we, what kind of thoughts do we have that are running through our minds right now?
Mhm.
Because that's the altar. What do we have on our minds? Do we have thoughts of depression? Do we have thoughts of anxiety? Do we have thoughts of
Mhm.
disempowerment? What kind of thoughts are we carrying? And that same church that you had mentioned where I had spoken, that's a very traditional African American church. So they had come down the aisle to the altar, you know, to relieve their burdens and that kind of thing. And
Mhm.
so when we engage in those type of rituals, we have to remind ourselves that the ritual is there only to remind us that the power is within ourselves. So when you go down the
Exactly.
aisle to the altar, that's
Exactly.
symbolic to remind yourself that the spirit is within. And so now you have what? You have relieved or renounced that burden and you've left it at the altar. But many
Right.
times because we put the ritual before our understanding of spirituality, we pick up the burden and we carry it right back to our pew or to our seat. So we have to understand and know that the rituals are there only to remind us of the spirit and the power and the presence within. So our great sister Harriet Tubman is an archetype. Going back to
Yes.
her, she is an archetype to remind us that we are always empowered. She brought forth that spiritual principle so that we could be reminded of that. And if more of us begin to buy into that and understand that and use that spiritual principle of power, we would see our strength, or we would see more of God in our experience.
That is so well stated. It's so true. I agree 100%. And I've said to people, what you've said, Harriet Tubman was, was just phenomenal. She had the entire United States against her. They placed a bounty on her head. And
Yeah.
the slave master told her that she would never be free, even though her husband and everyone else in her family was free, that she would never be free. So she said, oh no, when the creator of the universe gave her that vision to set my people free, she had no thoughts of not doing it. She may have had some fearful thoughts, but her thoughts and love of the creator of the universe overrode those thoughts. I tell everybody, I said, I feel like that's my genealogy. I always tell people, because I feel like I'm Harriet Tubman.
You
Yeah,
have
I
to be
love that.
persistently determined. And I
Yeah.
think that that's what her life really showed. Even as I've gone back and have studied Mary McLeod Bethune, and just them understanding their oneness with God, she said, I believe in Mary McLeod Bethune, therefore I believe in God.
Mhm.
See, because she saw the two as being one. She saw her
Mhm.
oneness in God. And that
Mhm.
and that's what many of us don't understand. This was a woman that was so determined. You know that Mary McLeod Bethune was an educator. She started Bethune-Cookman College, which still
Right.
stands today, but she started it in the early 1900s. A woman with a dream, a vision, who decided that she wanted to educate, started off educating young girls. They eventually incorporated the boys, but she had a dream and an idea of educating Black people who were coming through or who had come out of slavery.
Mhm.
And this was a woman who was so determined that she built the chairs and the tables and the desk in order to be able to do that. Same thing with Booker T. Washington. So
Mhm.
many of us have not really studied um, these figures, and it was really, our African American historical figure, it was really their spirituality
Mhm.
that anchored
Exactly.
their place in history, and no one really ever talks um, about that aspect of them.
That
See,
is
we
so
just
true.
look at it and we see Martin Luther King, we see Harriet Tubman, we see Malcolm X. We just see a parade of figures, and we go through that, ritual in Black History Month, where we just look at them and say they did X, Y, and Z, but we don't
Mhm.
look at the quote unquote hidden part that really motivated them, which was their spirituality, recognizing their oneness with the spirit, and them anchoring whatever their given mission was. So,
Yeah, I think that is so true. A person that, unless you're into academia, that few of the masses really know about is Dr. Reverend Howard Thurman, who
mhm,
was a renowned theologian, but
mhm,
he's not remembered
mhm,
as he should be
mhm,
by uh, by the masses. They just kind of cast him to the side. But he met with Gandhi, and Dr. King was influenced by him. A lot of the people were influenced by Reverend Dr. Thurman, who was a scholar and he was a genius. The same
mhm.
thing with Benjamin Mays, Dr. Mays, who
Yes.
championed the cause for young men at Morehouse. Because of him, Morehouse has a stellar legacy. So, but they understood spirituality. Even though they may have had a religious background, especially my elder Harriet Tubman, she couldn't read and she couldn't write. She
Right.
relied 100%
Mhm.
on the creator of the universe to guide her and to empower her. And everything she did, out of all of some of the leaders that we had, especially with the Black leaders whom they killed, who the racists
Mhm.
killed, they never caught her, nor did they kill her.
Right.
And I tell
That
people
is,
that's something to really, really think about, because she
it
was
is.
following God.
Yeah, she went beyond the martyrdom.
Yes.
See, and like you said, she is one of the few that have been able to. And if you notice, it's women that have done that. The men haven't done that so successfully. So that I think
Mm-hmm.
that's another nuance that we need to understand. So,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it's true. I think it's true. So
mhm.
what do you think? What direction do you think we should move into? Because it seems as though in this country things are just falling apart, and everyone
Mhm.
they have to fall apart because the foundation was not uh, holistic and it was not all encompassing. It was built on a racist foundation.
Right.
So, what do you see? Because things are falling apart with this new regime coming in, things are being
Mhm.
dismantled
Mhm. Mhm.
with
Mhm.
Project 2025, if people believe it. My thing is to know what someone's agenda is, not to be fearful of it, but to know
Right.
it so I can then come up with my counter plan. So
Right.
I'm not going to be caught unaware. I know it,
Mhm.
like feeding it. I'm going the spiritual route to transmute it. But
Right.
what do you foresee? Look into your
Mhm.
biblical uh, visionary Akashic Records book.
Mhm.
And what do you foresee for the state of affairs in this country?
Well, I think, for us, I think this is a divine opportunity. We've had other opportunities in the past. This is another divine opportunity for us to really uh, take hold of our power, and
Yeah.
we can step into our spirituality by respecting ourselves as manifestations of God. See,
Yeah.
this whole thing is a setup for us to begin to step into our own self mastery. We've had other opportunities, but this is another opportunity for us to step into our own self, because I really believe now it's going to be us being able to master the divine laws, as you referred to earlier,
Mm-hmm.
the 12 spiritual laws, being able to use them in such a way that we become what we want to be. I mean, well, we become more of the change, so called, that we want to see in the world. Because if I want to be empowered, I have to what? I have to envision it. I have to be it. I
Yes.
have to show
Yeah.
up differently in the world. So that
Yes.
does mean that whatever somebody else does that's in the White House, it's I have to look at it and understand it, but at the same time I have to also know that the power lies within me. So it requires a level of mastery. I think that the with the election of Barack Obama, people made it all about him because he was the first African American to be able to become the president of the United States. So they made it all about him. But what it really demonstrated, I'm not sure whether he even realized it, but what he was really demonstrating was the potential that we
Yeah.
all have to
Mm-hmm.
transform the conditions, the world, everything around us. So that
Mm-hmm.
was another divine opportunity. I don't know whether we caught it all, but at least that's what it spoke to me about. It was an opportunity for all of us to realize that we have the potential to do anything that we want to do or that we desire to do.
Yeah.
So I'm affirming that we become take this opportunity to step into ourselves more, not deny, because we have to assess what we see. And when
Mhm.
we can be honest about what we're seeing and what this thing is turning itself into, then we can really figure out or some solutions that will really work. See, but when you're in denial about what you're looking at, or if you're hoping and wishing that the person who has shown you over and over and over again that they're not going to change, that they
Mhm.
refuse to change, then it's reflecting back to me that I'm the one that needs to continue to stay on the road of spiritual transformation. I'm the one that's got to step into my empowerment. I'm the one that's got to use the tool of faith. I'm the one that's got to use strength. I'm the one that's got to use the visionary power within me to create, do, and be what I desire. That's what is reflecting back to me. And I pray and I'm affirming that we take this opportunity to be even more dynamic than what we were before. And again, if we get caught up in the administrations that we've had several different administrations that have been not so good for us,
Mhm.
not so good for the country. And so if you
Mhm.
just take your mind back to think about what kind of administration Harry Tubman may have lived under, or the
Right.
administration that Mary McLeod Bethune lived under. We've lived through some um, very challenging situations and conditions, and still yet we're here. My prayer is that more of us will stop making it about somebody outside of us, and that we begin to step into to really see the value and the power within ourselves.
It's again eloquently stated. Yeah, and mastering self.
Mastering self.
And I
And that's,
think,
go ahead, I'm
uh,
sorry.
I think that's
I
enough.
really think that that's really what it's all about. When you
Yeah.
look at Jesus, the teachings of Jesus were about self mastery, beginning to be able to step into a greater awareness of self and to be able to not only comprehend the teachings, but to demonstrate what faith looks like, what love looks like, what strength looks like. I've got to demonstrate, because unless I'm able to demonstrate it, I still don't know it.
Yeah. And it's just philosophical.
Mhm.
And people sit
Exactly.
around the coffee table having these grand philosophical discussions. They're
Mhm.
not doing the Harriet Tubman movement. It's a
Right.
big difference. A big
The,
difference.
the underground movement still goes on, right?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. And you have people out there pontificating. Yeah, that sounds
Mhm.
nice. But are you willing to put everything you have on the line? Like uh El-Hajj Shabazz, Malik
Mhm.
Shabazz,
Mhm.
Brother Malcolm, Dr. King, Fannie Lou Hamer. Oh, I love Fannie Lou Hamer. They put their lives on the line. They put their careers on the line, their reputations, because people talked about them. Now they idolize them, right?
Right.
Everybody's in love with Dr. King. I said, please, you tried to kill him. Everybody's in love with Malcolm. Please, if he were
Right.
here today, you run in the opposite direction. Fannie Lou Hamer to Harriet Tubman. They idolize them now because they
And just an interesting
have
fact about
transitioned.
Dr. King, Martin Luther King, when he was going to Morehouse, he made a C in public speaking. Now,
Really?
if he had allowed that C to stop him, think about everything that we come across, just going to school and
Yeah.
certain teachers saying certain things at certain times. So he made a C in public speaking. Now, if he had allowed that C to limit him, we would have
Mm,
never known it.
wow.
So
It is so.
we really have to study the lives, and then the lives of these different individuals, and then begin to look at ourselves.
Yeah, I
When I
agree.
when I first got up in the seventh grade and decided that I wanted to be the what is it? The student government president. I made a mess of it. I dropped my cards. I think I was on the stage and dropped the index cards, and I could hear the whole cafeteria, the whole audience laughing. But if I had allowed that whole incident to stop me at 12 years old and say, I can't public speak, or I don't like public speaking, I never would be in the place where I am now, the head of a ministry, or being able to go out and speak. I wouldn't even be able to do this broadcast because I would have decided that whole incident defined my life. We have to
Yeah.
begin to understand and know. See, right then, when I went forth, when God gave me the idea to go forth to become the student government president, that was preparing, even though I lost, it was preparing me for what I'm doing now. So we
Mm-hmm.
have to continue to stay motivated. We have to continue to stay encouraged. We have to continue
Mm-hmm.
to stay on the road of knowing that we are empowered and not looking. See, this is the other part of it. Not looking for somebody to motivate us, not looking for somebody else to give us the keys to empower. We have to really be able to cultivate it within ourselves.
Mm-hmm. And self-validation is the most important. Because sometimes people, particularly now in the age of social media,
Yeah.
people, and I tell people, don't look at the likes on social media. The likes
Uh-huh.
don't tell you anything. People can click like and not even listen to what you have to say.
Right.
Look, yeah, because I have the podcast and I tell people the likes are not important. The views are. The longer a person stays on your page, that kicks in the algorithms on Facebook. And so our algorithms are very strong. But you look at the likes, you say, they're not doing so hot. But we are, because people, I know friends of mine who will listen to our podcast and they never click like, but they're religious listeners. Every week
Mhm.
they listen. They just don't desire to click the like. So
Mhm.
people get caught up with popularity and all those other things, on social media, and they really, for self-validation. Well,
Right.
and I just tell people, you can have 1 million likes, but they'll convert into um, buying your products. They'll convert into buying your programs. They'll convert into their being consistent listeners. This is like
Mhm.
they've gotten in the habit of clicking like, and people, well, I don't have enough. I mean, there are people, young people who've done some really unkind things to others based on that. So
Yeah,
social media is a very different energy.
it
And
is.
people, yeah, it's a very different energy, and people have gotten caught up with this validation from the outside. And like you said, you have to fall in love with you.
Hmm. Hmm. You
Yeah.
really, really do. Because I also view change and spiritual transformation very different. A lot of times people use those interchangeably,
Mhm.
change and transformation. But transformation, as I said earlier, is a permanent shift in both our
Yeah.
outlook and our lifestyle so that we are
Yeah.
completely altered. Change may be temporary, meaning that I could decide I'm dieting tomorrow and then
Mhm.
I'm off the diet. I'm deciding I'm dieting today and I'm off the diet tomorrow. Whereas when I make a lifestyle shift, I'm permanently looking at
Yeah.
how my lifestyle can be altered such that I'm leading a more healthy, happy, more well
Yeah.
lifestyle. Because that's
Yeah.
that's that's the only thing. I'm also a person that used to be 265 pounds.
Oh, wow.
And I have gone through various evolutions and transformation around that. I'm now, eating a plant-based
Yeah.
diet. But see, so many people in my family have had diabetes. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not taking on the idea and the thought pattern that I am a victim of my genes. And so
Right,
therefore, because
right,
my grandmother had it, I have to have it. Now I may have to do some bodily things. I
right.
have to do some bodily. I can't do the same thing that everybody else decides that they want to do, like eat 10 pieces of chocolate cake and all the cookies that they want. I can't do that, but I have to do certain things if I don't want the outcome to be diabetes. But you can reverse diabetes, you can reverse high blood pressure. We
Yeah.
don't have to be sick. Now
Mm-hmm.
we are passing through, we're moving through, this experience called the human experience. We're passing through, but at the same time, we've got to get what? We got to get the fullness of life.
Yeah.
And if you're looking again outside of yourself for satisfaction through food, that's still giving your power away. And when I look back, and I'm going to share one more example. It took me a long time to understand this. When I look back at my experience growing up, see, I grew up maybe around 6 or 7 years old. When I was growing up, I began to gain weight around that time, 6 or 7 years old. But when I realized that I was in my memory bank, I realized I was coming home to an empty house. I was a latchkey child. And
Mm-hmm.
also during that time in Atlanta, if anybody can remember, in Atlanta, the missing and murdered children
Yeah.
was happening. And so when you understand what fat represents from a metaphysical standpoint, it represents protection. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I look back at my childhood, I said, oh, the reason that this was happening was because of the outer conditions. And
Yeah.
I was trying to protect myself, comfort myself until my parents got home through eating or overeating. But it
Mm-hmm.
took me many, many years to unravel that. But we have to look when we respect and love ourselves as a manifestation of God, spiritual understanding will reveal itself. Now I've gotten to a place where I don't feel that weight will really ever be an issue for me
Yeah.
because I've overcome that and I understand what that's all about. So,
Yeah. And that's symbolized. Well, Dr. Howard,
mhm.
unfortunately, we are coming to a close.
Okay,
I so
okay,
enjoyed this conversation. But before we close out, I would like for you to give people your contact information. And it's also going to be listed at the bottom as well.
okay.
But I would like for you to give them your contact information.
Okay. My contact, I'm on Facebook. You can find me through Reverend REV, Reginald Howard on Facebook. I have a Facebook page.
Can you
Also have,
spell everything out for them so
yeah,
people can make sure?
okay. On Facebook, REV dot Reginald, Reginald, Howard, HOWARD. I'm on Facebook, so I invite you to friend me. Also, to receive my book, you may email me at uh, Reginald Howard, PhD at gmail.com. Reginald, Reginald, Howard, HOWARD, PhD at gmail.com. You may also call me. My telephone number is 404 274 4300. 404 274 4300. I go live on Facebook every Sunday at 11 a.m. And I'm also live simultaneously on Sundays at 11 a.m. on YouTube. And you can type into your search bar Truth and Transformation Ministries. Truth, Truth, And is spelled out A-N-D, and transformation. Truth and Transformation Ministries on Facebook and YouTube.
Wonderful. So are your books also available on Amazon?
No, I need to talk to you about that. I can get everything on Amazon, but
Yeah. Well, I'm doing KD Publishing, which is like an offshoot of Amazon. Yeah.
okay. So
But we can talk offline about that.
okay,
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. Well, we so appreciate you, Dr. Howard. This has been so informational, so uplifting. And I know that the listening audience is going to definitely be in touch with you. So thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you.
educating, inspiring, motivating, and reminding us of who we truly are as, as individual expressions of the Most High Creative God, Yahweh, Jehovah, whatever the name. People will like to ascribe to that energy. So thank you.
Thank you. I
And
appreciate
everyone
you.
else, oh, you're welcome. And for everyone else, tell others about this wonderful channel, about Dr. Howard's excellent presentation. And he is going to be able to answer your questions when you write in. So feel free to ask him questions or get more information during the airing of the show. So thank you. We've covered all bases. And don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. So thank you, everyone. Until next time, be safe, be well, and namaste. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Gray Lives on the Rise, being brought to you by Jamila Sense, which is the product line of Oyende Enterprises. Jamila Sense is a 100% natural aromatherapy line that heals the mind, body, and soul. This episode of Gray Lives on the Rise was intended to uplift you, to inspire you, and to motivate you. Please tell all of your friends, family members, and anyone you know who's 50 plus, who's living a vibrant life and interested in doing more and enjoying life even to its fullest. So thank you, and please subscribe, like, and comment on this video and all our videos. Thank you, and until next time, until our next podcast, namaste and be well.